welcome. Glad to have you here for 15 minutes. I'm Amy with the Greater Columbus, Georgia Chamber of Commerce, and I'm joined today by Betsy Covington, the President and CEO of our Community Foundation of the Chattahoochee Valley. Betsy, thank you so much for being with us for 15 minutes.
Amy, I am happy to be with you anytime, 15 minutes or whatever you need.
Yeah. So I was doing a little research prior to our interview and found out that there's over 1,700 community foundations across the world, and around 700 of those are in the United States. And I was doing this research because I wanted to be able to say that hands down, we have the best community foundation in the world. And I can really say that because they are across the world. So tell us a little bit about our community foundation. You guys do a lot of amazing work. Y'all are involved in the execution of a lot of incredible things. So give us a little elevator speech on what happens in the Community Foundation.
I'm glad to do that. And the joke in community foundation world is that if you've seen one community foundation, you've seen one community foundation. Honestly, they each look different because they're each separate organizations established to serve their local communities. In our case, we serve 13 counties, 11 of which are in Georgia and 2, Lee and Russell, in Alabama. And the concept behind community foundations is we help philanthropists of all shapes and sizes make a difference in their community in ways that matter to them. And sometimes that means we're connecting them with things that they might not have known about. Sometimes they're making those differences during their lifetimes. Often they're setting up endowed funds that live in perpetuity at the community foundation. And so they'll go on giving, leaving a family's legacy alive in a community. We're kind of that back office that helps create raging philanthropists in this community.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And we do have a lot of raging philanthropists. Can't talk today. Philanthropists in this community. Tell me about the size of our foundation and the dollars. I'm so impressed when you talk about those.
Yeah, it might have sounded a little bit better at the beginning of March than it's going to sound now. I mean, all of us, of course, are riding out this crisis, and we are hopeful that our investment policy, which is very well thought out and administered quite well, is going to protect us from the worst of the downturns. But actually, at the very beginning of March, we hit the $200 million mark as a community foundation of size, which is great. I don't ever want us to rest on the laurels of the dollar amounts too much, because to me, it's what that represents. And that means we have an ability to help donors respond during crises like this, right? Normally we give away on behalf of our donors between $15 and $20 million a year, with most of that being granted in this Chattahoochee Valley area. But we do grant making all over the country. That involves a lot of research on behalf of our donors and answering questions, and like I said, kind of finding out whatever it is that gets them excited about the difference that they're able to make in the world.
That's incredible and super exciting, and we hope that that everything kind of holds true for the remainder of the year. I know there's a lot of uncertainty, and we're all hoping for the best. Let's talk about, you know, you're involved even outside of the community foundation. You're involved in so much, and immediately when we started seeing the shift in the world, you and Ben Moser with United Way came together and reacted and responded with this daily call that has been an incredible resource for really so many people in this community. And I know it started kind of as one effort, but it's kind of evolved. So tell us a little bit about kind of how that happened, the decision that was made, and what you guys are doing, and some of the conversations that go on these calls.
Great. No, I'm happy to have that opportunity. I do think our organization partners really well with our United Way. And it's one of the things that when I was hired at the Community Foundation over 19 years ago, the board at that time said was really important to them. It surprised me that they felt like they had to say that, because to me, 2 important philanthropic resource organizations absolutely ought to work well together. I have a great partner in Ben Moser. He's new to this community. He came last August, so I know there are a lot of people who maybe haven't connected with him yet, but I'll tell you, he fits right in. And now the Community Foundation staff we're all kind of referring to the United Way folks as coworkers because we're talking to them all the time. When we first started getting wind of the fact that the coronavirus was going to impact the United States and that we were likely to be faced with business interruptions and life interruptions, Ben and I got together over a weekend and said, how can we work together to help philanthropists of all sizes in our community respond to this crisis? So we created a coronavirus response fund, and you hadn't asked me about that yet, but I'm going to back into the call because the call kind of came out of that. So the idea was to create a fund that would make grants to organizations in our community at the front line of supporting vulnerable populations during the COVID-19 crisis. And we stood that up sort of mid-March. And in part of that same conversation, we realized if business really is interrupted, as it certainly has been, how are we going to know what's happening out there in our community? We're used to being on the streets. We're used to talking to our organizations all the time. So we came up with the idea of this call that was to help connect service providers and key personnel throughout our greater Columbus community to each other. So it's that, but we've been joined by a lot of members of the public, and frankly, the more the merrier. It is, people are welcome to join it. All of this information is on the Community Foundation's website. The fund lives at the Community Foundation, but we partner with United Way for grant making. So it's all at CFCV, like Community Foundation Chattahoochee Valley.com/coronavirus. And there's a drop-down tab for the community call that has the telephone number. And it's every morning at 10 a.m. Monday through Friday. And there's a standing agenda that you'll see on that drop down. But any organization that wants to speak can email Ben Moser by 8 p.m. the night before and get on the agenda. But there's always an open part of the agenda. So if people need something or they're seeing something they want others to be aware of, if they want to ask a question, it's hopefully a great way for people to share information and make sure we're responding as well as we should be.
Yeah, and one great thing that y'all are doing too is they're recorded. So I've there's been times where I've had conflicts and haven't been able to be on the call. So I go back and listen to see if there's anything that I've missed, which it's amazing, and y'all are so timely about it too. I mean, they go up within 24 hours. So y'all
Isn't that great?
Great job.
No, that's an employee at Edith Giles at United Way is incredible. She's like the minutes monster, and she gets those things cranked out daily. They're posted on United Way's website, and you're saying this reminds me, I got to get the link added to our site, so we'll do that after we hang up today. So
well, great, kudos to y'all on that, and it's been incredible to see the level of collaboration and information share, and again, it's people from all walks of life at this point on that call. So it's incredible, and thanks to you and Ben for really coming together on that. Let's talk a little bit more about the funds, because it's so impressive to see how this community, Columbus always steps up, but to see how this community has responded during the middle of this pandemic has been incredible. So let's talk about the initiation of the fund, which you mentioned a little, but just how it's grown and evolved, and how businesses have stepped up, and really just even individuals in the community are coming together to support this fund.
We are hashtag amazed at how people have responded. I think, I have a big belief, having worked in philanthropy as long as I have now, I think people know in this community that good things get done with contributed money, and that people are careful with it. And so there's that. So there's this feeling that, I know if I make this investment of $5 or $20 or whatever I might be able to afford right then, it's going to be used well to help organizations that are doing great work on the front lines. But beyond that, I think people are happier people when they're giving to others. I think being useful is good for us. It's good for our souls. And especially right now where a lot of us are worried, we don't know what this is going to look like. We're all doing something that nobody's done before. I have a firm belief in this community's ability to come together and work through a problem. And I think if people love each other, care about each other, say, I don't know the answer to this, but I'm going to work with people that I believe in, and we're going to figure it out. So to me, that's kind of what this fund is about, right? It's this web of mechanism for how people come together. You're right, the response has been incredible. Contributions are over $1 million right now, which I want to be careful about because I know there are people who'll hear that and go, oh, well, we're done. And here's the really worst news. We are not done. This is a long haul. We have arts organizations that have generously taken a seat that we know we've got to circle back and invest in. This fund is about organizations that are working with members of vulnerable populations, so it's pretty narrow. As of this week, we will have given away grants, hold on, I brought my numbers with me, of $726,600, which is really remarkable and such a testament to this kind of generosity that you spoke of. Global Payments TSIS did a $100,000 match for us, which was great. We matched that last week, so check, yay, thank you TSIS. Tomorrow we'll announce another match. AFLAC has likewise stepped forward and said, we'll give $100,000. We think it prompts people to participate in this effort. So the deal is, for every dollar that an individual or business or whoever contributes to the fund, it'll be matched by AFLAC's gift up to $2,000 per individual contribution. Wow. So I hope that makes people understand this is really something that's bigger than you. It's easy to do it. It's all over Facebook. You can go to cfcb.com/coronavirus and contribute online safely. And oh, by the way, United Way and Community Foundation have both waived all the administrative fees that we would normally charge for funds like this, which for us is a whopping 1%. But right now it needs to all go out in this community. So
that's great.
The other thing I want to mention, if you don't mind, you haven't asked me about this yet, is also on that cfcb.com/coronavirus, there's a drop down for a nonprofit assessment tool. And mentioning our arts organizations kind of made me think of that. We know that there are a lot of great organizations that we've invested in for 30 years who've just taken a seat right now and they're closed and they don't have a way to operate. We ask them to be honest with us about the impact that the coronavirus has had on their programming and their operations and frankly their finances. And they are responding and filling out amazingly detailed questionnaires. And by going to that drop down, you can request a copy of that report. Anybody can, and it comes right back to you in an auto response to your email and gives you PDFs that have 2 pages per organization of how they answered that questionnaire. So for people who may say, I want to give a little something to the Coronavirus Response Fund, but I'm really interested in, I don't know, River Center, the Springer, Historic Columbus, this is a great way for you to see the best way to help them right now and know that we're going to circle back and do all of us the best we can as we're able to later.
That's great. You know, you think about all of these organizations and a lot of their annual fundraisers have been impacted by this because they're events. And I mean, we're seeing that and it's challenging. I mean, everybody's going to have to kind of pivot and figure out, you know, what these next steps are. So that's great that y'all are thinking, you know, about these other organizations that maybe folks aren't considering right now, but do believe in and love and support and mean so much to this community. So that's fantastic. Do you want to give us a couple of examples? I know that there's been quite a few organizations that have benefited from the fund at this point, but can you give us some examples of some organizations and the work they're doing?
Yeah, and actually I have the ones that are the grants that we're announcing this week. So right now, as we're taping this, they don't know that they're getting their grants yet. So you're not showing this afternoon?
No,
right?
not this afternoon.
So this week's grantees, Red Cross came to us and said, we have to help house people who've had to leave their homes because of house fires.
Mhm.
And now we have to put them in hotels, and the cost has exponentially increased. So is there any way that y'all can help us make sure that these people have a place to go? Yes, indeed we can. Bethany Christian Services is a group here that works with foster care families, and particularly they ask for some ways that they could have resources to support some of the increased costs that these families are experiencing right now. Some of them are themselves in crisis, and the last thing we want is a child in foster care to have more stress put on them right now than they have. Hope Harbor needs help to make sure that it is caring for its clients, mostly women, and their families well at this point. One of the saddest pieces of this crisis to me has been the fact that we know that there is increased instance of domestic violence and child abuse in our community, but it's often underreported right now. Often it's schools who catch the issues that may be happening with a particular child. And Hope Harbor's doing great work, but they needed some more resources, so we're happy to provide that. And finally, this week, Stewart Community Home is seeing increased costs for cleaning supplies and food that it's having to resource to feed the folks who live at Stewart Community Home. So that's this week's grants. In the past, we have made a grant. We're making a grant to St. Francis Hospital to help them ramp up their critical care availability. Likewise to Piedmont Columbus Regional. We helped Mercy Med with their cost for their fantastic bulk testing program they did in our community. We've helped Safe House afford an isolation unit if its clients need to be separated from the folks who normally are staying with them. So it's everything that we can think of that's kind of that frontline response, a lot of increased food cost. So any organization that is hearing this and thinks, wow, this sounds like us, go to cfcb.com/coronavirus, and there's an easy form that you can complete there, and you kind of will be contacted by staff of the Community Foundation or United Way, and we'll make grants weekly as we move through this crisis, as long as we keep having money roll in. So yeah, we hope people continue to be generous.
Betsy, this has been so informative. Thank you so much for spending 15 minutes with us. Can't thank you enough for your leadership, for your amazing team that I know is working so hard to make these grants quickly accessible so people can get the work done that they need to get done. So thank you for all that you're doing. We really appreciate you, and we're so fortunate to have you in this community.
I will accept those thanks and turn them right back at you, because let me tell you, we have a fantastic Chamber of Commerce, and you guys have really stepped it up and done extraordinary things, particularly for small business in our community. And we need you right now, and we're happy to have you. Thanks.
Oh, we appreciate that. It's great to collaborate with great teams, and that's what Columbus does. We do amazing. Yep. So again, that's all the time we have today for our 15-minute segment. Betsy, thank you so very much. Stay safe. And we'll see you guys next time for our next series of 15 minutes.